If you could be paying less on your mortgage, you'd want to know, right? First Commerce Financial will look at your current mortgage statement at no cost and no obligation to see if they can provide you with a better option. And if you're in the market to purchase a home, they can also save you money as they provide some of the best rates without the junk fees associated with most mortgages. They've already helped over 225 Floridians save money this year. The options they have available are ready to help you with your mortgage or refinancing needs. Simply call 248-207-2404 or visit them online at firstcommercefinancial.com. Mention you heard it here first on War Chant. Welcome into the WarChant.com report. Last one of the year. Happy holidays, everybody. Great to be with you. Brought to you by First Commerce Financial is the show, of course. And let's just start with this. We got a new coach. I know I'm supposed to do details of the game and all that. 2 o'clock, New Year's Eve day. The great Irish Chaffel will be there to cover it for you guys, obviously.
On his birthday.
I think you're going to be there too.
It's
yeah.
on
Irish birthday, so happy birthday in advance. Maybe this will air by the time that game is getting going. We're airing this next week, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, perfect. Well, 2 o'clock, CBS, folks, against Arizona State. But let's get to the big news that everybody's excited about since we've last spoke, and that is Mike Norvell being named the new head coach at Florida State. He's only been here a couple of weeks, but he's made a real big impact on the program. Gene, I'll start with you. Fire away all the things you're happy to see from Mike Norvell so far.
Well, it'll be a long list, which is amazing. It's such a short sample size. But I'm going to say one kind of bigger thing that's jumped out to me the most, and that's kind of the changing of the hearts and minds and across the board. Let's start with the fans. You know, I think initially the reaction was with all the chatter about Bob Stoops and Franklin and all those guys. I think, oh, no, another AAC coach. Here we go. It didn't take long. That press conference, man, he won everybody over. And everything he's done since then, he's really done that with the fans. I mean, whether it's our message boards, whether it's just out in public. I'm sure you see it too, Jeff. When you go and run to somebody, they're all excited now about him, so that he's been able to do that. We saw him win over the hearts and minds with recruiting. He kept the core of the class intact and then went out and added to it. 2 quarterbacks in 10 days added to the program. The last guy couldn't get any in 2 years. Mm-hmm. So that's a feat right there. And
it's a big deal to get a quarterback.
You kind of need that position?
Kind of need him,
Mm-hmm.
Just saying.
Okay.
It's good to have a quarterback.
And even with us, I would say the media. I mean, the access has jumped up. We've gotten both coordinators twice within a period of a week. I think it took, what was it, a month or two? Yeah. Several months last time, Corey, the last guy, till we got to talk to a coordinator. And the coach before him, once a year on signing day, and that was it.
Yeah.
I mean, that right away, I think he's gotten off to a great start. Now, it's only a small sample size. We'll see how it goes. But, man, he's changed the narrative of the entire Seminole Nation in just a couple weeks.
Really organized, obviously has a plan, and I think that's why the fans are so excited. They can see it, and obviously I think we're excited about it. To your thoughts on Mike Norvell?
Yeah, I can just echo what Gene said. Everything is it's not, I don't know, exciting, I guess, is the right word, or it's a word I'll use. Encouraging, I think, is more of the correct word, because, yeah, a month ago, 5 weeks ago, when there's this prospect of Bob Stoops, and then you hear names like James Franklin and even Matt Campbell, and then you end up with a guy from Memphis, you're like, well, all right, I guess that's okay. Didn't Florida State just get a guy from this conference? But then, yeah, when you meet him and when you hear him talk, and then you see what he did on the recruiting trail, and you see what kind of coaches he's hiring.
Well, I want to talk about that, actually. I was going to ask you.
When you see the coaches he's hiring, that is a really, really good sign to me. These aren't guys that are just that have kind of just latched on to Mike Norvell and, hey, take me wherever you're going. I'm along for the ride. These are guys, for the most part, that have proven themselves at other places and have really good reputations and resumes. To me, that's really encouraging too. But yeah, the press conference kind of changed me, man. And it shouldn't. It's just a press conference. But now I'm much more of a believer than I was, say, 2.5 weeks ago.
Well, stay with this, and you guys can both add on to this kind of big picture talk. So Fuller and Dillingham, most notably, because obviously Odell was already here and so was Dugans. We're happy they're staying. But talk about those 2 hires, because those are obviously going to be make or break hires.
Yeah, Fuller's the biggest hire he'll make, I think. And you know, when you look at it and you say, okay, man, this guy was in his 40s and was at Marshall as a DC, and then he comes to Memphis for 1 year, and now you're at Florida State, and you pick him out of all the candidates that you possibly could have had to come to Florida State. You wonder, okay, was that the easiest hire to make, or was it the best hire to make? Just because he's right down the hall, it's like, well, but I just watching Norvell, seeing what his team has been, seeing the fact that he's hired 25, 26 coaches in the last 4 years, so he's done this a lot in his past, and he's very good at it. He has a track record of it. I'm taking it on face value, and I'm thinking, okay, this guy obviously really knows how to hire coaches, knows what he looks for, knows what he's looking for, what he wants. And this, he thinks, was the best guy for the job. He is really, really impressed with just 1 year of working with Fuller that he belongs at this level.
It doesn't say a lot about Dillingham, too. I mean, the fact that he goes to Auburn for 1 year and after a year comes right back because he wants to coach. That must say about, we've had some coaches in the past that maybe other assistants didn't get along with the head coach so much. The fact that a guy's willing to do that tells you he must really respect and have love to coach with Norvell.
I had a college coach tell me in a different sport one time recently, actually, pay attention to who follows guys when they're hired, and find out, do you get guys that are in programs that are on the same level and then they decide to move laterally just to be with that coach? You got guys that come in from a higher, perception-wise, a program that's doing better, do they come back and coach with that guy? Because if so, it means they really believe in not only his vision, but the path that he's going down and their chances to elevate their careers in doing so, not just by riding the coattails, as you were describing, but Norvell, if you evaluate that many coaches, 20-plus coaches, in a very brief period of time, and you're able to succeed at a high level the way he consistently did at Memphis, he improved upon Fuente's program when he took over. They got better in the 4 years that he was there. And those guys were coming and going. It shows me that he wants guys that are ambitious, guys that are as hungry as he is, and guys that are like-minded, obviously, that he can get along with and coach with. He's had guys across the board that will sing his praises, and when given the opportunity to leave in Auburn, who's obviously been more successful as of late than Florida State, to come to Florida State and coach with him after just 1 year, you're right. That says an awful lot about who Mike Norvell is.
Yeah, it's impressive. And to your point, Jeff, it's also interesting on the coaching staff. I think in terms of the turnover with a coach, with his assistants, I think only Nick Saban's had more for college football in the last few years than Mike Norvell. And the fact that he's continued to succeed, that he continues to bring good coaches in and they get better.
Yeah.
They've been getting better every year. So that says, I think the last coach, one of the things that happened when he lost his nucleus, the Cristobal's, the Levitts, you saw a dramatic drop-off. He was ultra-dependent on his coaches and didn't make good hires. This guy seems to consistently make good hires over and over again.
And hasn't been solely dependent on their doing a good job. He's just replaced them when they've moved on. Top priorities for the new staff when we start in spring. I mean, what are we looking at here? Your thought, the next few months getting organized, obviously.
Before the spring or go?
Just start of the preseason camp, I guess I'd say.
Man, obviously – load up the roster. You had a nice signing day. Keep them coming. Maybe get some JUCO guys in there. Figure out, and this is the thing with Fuller, that when you talk to him, he is a really sharp dude. And just he's very insightful when you talk to the guy. I really enjoyed talking to him a lot. He's got to figure out a way to get a pass rush. And I know that's very specific. I'm not looking at a more micro level than a macro level. But to me, I know the offensive line is a big deal. The defense has got to be so much better. And whatever you have to do in 3 or 4 months, really the next 8 or 9 months, to make this defense competent would be a huge step up for this program. It's got to happen. I don't know what you can do in the offseason to make it happen other than coach them really well and make them a lot bigger and faster and stronger. That helps.
18 new players, Gene, coming in now after this recruiting class, and there's still work to be done. I guess talk about what you think from a personnel standpoint they're going to continue to work on.
Yeah, Corey mentioned that. I think that's one of the big priorities, obviously filling a lot of gaps on the roster. It starts obviously with the offensive line there. The tackle position really needs some help there. You got a couple in the signing period, but man, true freshmen can't come in and play. You lost Ryan Roberts, who was your most consistent tackle. Say what you want about Abdul Bello. He was a body. He was out there, started games. Jawan Williams has disappeared. He was a body. I don't think he's going to be back. It doesn't sound like. But you got Darius Washington, and then what?
Yeah.
So, I mean, you need the infusion there through junior college,
portal, baby.
Through the transfer portal. We threw out the name the other day on War Chant, but the kid from Stanford, the offensive tackle, I hear there's a really good shot to be able to bring him. You got it. I would say 2 or 3 of those guys between junior college and graduate transfers because you need to load that up. Now, I would also say running back, which is surprising.
Signed a good one, though.
Signed a good one, Tolafili. They're really high on him. You heard Dillingham was singing his praises big time. But I got to tell you, you had 6 guys on scholarship running backs in 2017. You go into this game, I don't know if Sheffield's on scholarship, but he may be the only healthy one going into this. So I think if you can go out and get a big one and a transfer or another big-time high school guy at running back, I think you need to load up there. And then finally, I'd say defensive line. The one thing Jimbo Fisher did very well this time here, he loaded up with big defensive linemen. He kept them deep, kept those guys fresh. You've seen that position kind of see attrition the last couple of years. Obviously, you're going to lose a couple guys this year, including pretty good player in Marvin Wilson. Yeah. So I'd like to see them load up there. If you can get a junior college to transfer in there, just to add, if nothing else, to add depth. I think maybe your starters are okay, but after that first string, man, you're really scratching.
Well, we'll do the obligatory at the time of the taping of this show, but I will ask you, do they have a chance? I know they were in on another running back with Dwan Edwards, I believe it was, that young man. A chance that they get him still?
Yeah, that's what's nice. You have now the lead time between now and signing day gives you that lead time to go down there and get down in South Florida and really hit those guys up hard. So, I mean, I think we've seen the amount of progress they made in a short period of time. Now give them, a month and a half. I think you got a real good shot to maybe land him or maybe even another running back.
And Jeff, don't you think, real quick, not to interrupt, but I will.
Go ahead.
It's the last one of the year.
It's the last one. We'll lose today.
When you talk about what this coaching staff and what Norvell needs to do between now and August or now and the spring, man, so much of it, right, is getting them to buy in, to believe in who he is.
Yeah.
Because you talk to some of these players, and I won't name them, but we've talked to a lot of them, and you can tell there are a lot of them that are just dipping their toe in the water a little bit.
They've been burned.
They've been burned, and they're very skeptical about a new hire. Again, their third coach in 4 years, their fourth OC in 4 years. So you can understand the skepticism. And, man, if you don't really believe in what you're being taught or who you're playing for, it can be difficult to succeed. So I think that might be his number one overall goal, is to get the guys on the team to believe in him.
To your point, though, and I think as we continue to kind of expand on the things that we've enjoyed up to this point about Mike Norvell, and it is early and we're in the honeymoon phase, but I like that a guy is able to not only take to the dais at his opening press conference, but then later on in an interview I did, and I know he's talked with you guys a bunch, he's admitted you can't do that overnight. Building those relationships and convincing people that what you're saying is genuine takes time, and you have to live it. You have to do it every single day. They have to see you do it, and then they'll buy in over time. He knows they've been burned, and I understand that at the players' meetings that he sat down and individually talked with all the guys that are coming back, the veteran players, he pretty much sat back and listened. He wasn't giving them a ton of instruction. He wanted to hear from them. Tell me about you guys. Tell me about what it's been like. Tell me, how can I help you guys? I think that's a good start. I think it's smart on his part. He understands this is not going to happen overnight. Now, Florida State does have a bowl game to play in. May not be one that we're all that interested in, to be honest with you, because if you think about it, there's not a whole heck of a lot on the line. I'm not sure either one of these two teams is all that excited, but it is bowl game, and we should preview it, and we will next when the WarChantReport.com, I should say WarChant.com report returns.
Your home is one of the most valuable assets you will ever purchase in your lifetime. As a pure mortgage broker, our goal is to provide our clients with the best options surrounding that purchase decision. Whether you're looking to purchase a new home or refinance an existing home, First Commerce Financial provides 5-star service while saving you thousands of dollars along the way. If you are in Florida, call me at 248-207-2404 or reach us at www.firstcommercefinancial.com.
Welcome back to the WarChant.com report, brought to you by our friends First Commerce Financial. Florida State, 2 o'clock on CBS New Year's Eve day against Arizona State. Arizona State on the year, folks, 7-5. Don't know how much you saw of them. I certainly am going to admit now I didn't see a ton. Obviously know about a talented receiver that's not playing. That's good news for Florida State, and a talented quarterback. Overall, their offense is ranked 88th nationally. When you look at them, they don't run the football real well, 114th, but they do throw it around a bit. And, Gene, I'll start with you and Jaden Daniels. Talk about what you think you're going to see from this offense.
Yeah, he's good. He's a freshman. He was a freshman All-American, according to ESPN and some other outlets. And what jumps out at you when you look at just statistically looking at him, and you don't see this out of freshman quarterbacks very often, the touchdown-to-interception ratio, 17-2. He does not make mistakes. He's a dual-threat quarterback. That's always an issue for Florida State, having to deal with that a little bit. But I think the positive for Florida State is Brandon Ayuk is going to be sitting this one out, and he's their top receiver. He's another made some honorable All-American mentions, 1,200 receiving yards. He was their big play guy. But they still have some other receivers. Frank Darby's a big play guy, has 8 touchdowns. So it's still going to be a very good passing game. Like you mentioned, one of the best going against what is definitely a liability for Florida State, and that's trying to cover anybody.
That is true. Actually, here there is an element of this game that I will be interested in, and I'll turn to you, Corey, about this, because Florida State's so depleted with injuries. You got early departures. You got guys who are somewhat indifferent. They're going to have to turn to the youth, and that's something that we should be excited about. Younger guys on defense getting an opportunity.
Okay.
All right.
If you're excited about that, that's fine. I'm the mindset if a lot of these the younger linebackers especially, but all the youngsters on D, if they were ready to be good players, they would have been playing a lot more this year. So I don't know. I guess it'll be cool to just see them in live action. Kind of reminds you maybe of the Music City Bowl. You remember that?
Where the
half
suspension
the
game
team was gone, so you had to play guys that hadn't played all year.
Right? Yeah.
Tough game. They almost won that game.
Almost pulled it out, right?
But yeah, I don't know if I'm excited about seeing all the youth play, but I do think it'll be good for them for the future. Just one game, one college game, treat it as an exhibition game because that is exactly what it is. I don't know in the last 4 decades there's been a more meaningless Florida State football game than this one. Because
I agree. It feels that way.
There's nothing on the line.
In the past, you were fighting to stay above 500 and keep the streak alive.
Yeah.
Remember, we were 6-6
or
going
get
into
to
one.
a
You wanted
bowl.
to win one.
This is you've made the bowl. Your winning streak, your season of consecutive winning seasons
over,
is,
it's gone.
is 0.
The guy coaching the game is not going to be the head coach.
Well, you got lame duck coaches,
you got-
half of them.
They're playing out the string here.
So it really is pretty. The most meaningful thing Florida State will do that day is they have an ACC basketball game against Georgia Tech.
Yeah.
But that's at noon, so when that's over, you flip on over. Or if you're in El Paso, enjoy the trip, man. Go to the mountains.
Have fun with that.
Go to Juarez.
The Juarez is right there. It's a sister city. There's a lot of things to do in El Paso.
Especially the nightlife is good here.
Yeah, like
So-
he throws around the sister city.
Do what you
Nice little
can.
ring to it there. Arizona State's defense is good. As we look at the other side of the ball against the run, they're really good. They're terrible against the pass. So let's sling it around the lot. I'll come back to you, Corey. Here, you look at the lack of depth at running back and what Arizona State's good at, which is stopping the run. What do you throw it 50, 60 times here?
I don't like Gene said earlier. I don't know who the running back is. Who even on the roster will be a running back?
Sheffield's
Sheffield's
it.
it.
Walk-ons.
So yeah, you're going to be throwing it a lot. I think Jordan Travis, if you do want to run it, will come in at quarterback and you'll do some sort of wild trav with him, I guess. Those are your only options when it comes to running the ball. But yeah, you're going to have to throw it a lot. And then I wonder, you kind of want Tamari and Terry to come back.
I would.
But if you throw it a bunch and say he has 8 for 200,
Yeah, is he gone?
he's probably gone. You remember Auden Tate had a huge game in his bowl game, and then it's like, I can be a 7th round pick. I'm going to bounce. Tamarian's going to be drafted higher than that no matter what he does in the Sun Bowl. So that's an interesting dynamic. I personally have the opinion that he's probably leaving no matter what. So you might as well throw it to him 25 times.
Well, then at that
use
point,
them.
yeah, let's
Just
go.
use
Go
them.
nuts, yeah.
Their big-time wide receiver's sitting out. Your big-time wide receiver is staying and playing, so utilize them.
All right, but let's talk about some of these other players because I do think there is interest anytime you see some young, talented players that didn't get a lot of reps during the regular season and that are coming back. So, for example, Jordan Young and some other guys.
Yeah.
Let's start talking about some of them that you're excited to see.
Yeah, I mean, as Corey mentioned, Terry, assuming it seems like he's going to play in this game, the attrition of wide receivers is unbelievable. Warren Thompson's been out for personal reasons. Ontario Wilson got hurt recently. He's out. Keyshawn Helton in a few weeks got hurt. Trayshawn Harrison is in the transfer portal. I guess he's probably not playing. So, yeah, these young receivers, unless they throw every pass to Terry, which I guess is possible, you have to throw it to someone else. And I didn't even think a situation I saw a little bit in practice early in the year, they lined up Cam McDonald some at wide receiver.
I like Cam McDonald.
And I like his skill set. So I'd say let's throw him out a little bit more at wide receiver, put him maybe a little 12 personnel, whatever you want to do, get both tight ends out there because they can both run routes, catch the football a little bit. But also a couple other, I want to see a quarterback. Let's get Jordan Travis out there, not only running, we know he can run the football. I want to see him throw the ball a little bit more because I think he's got a legitimate shot to compete for that job when we get to, two-a-days in August. So I want to see him out there a little bit more as well. But like I said, at running back, I guess we'll see some, some walk-ons
Good for them,
out
though.
there as well.
What a cool opportunity. If I walked on at a program and took a beating every
play in a
day,
bowl game.
You get a chance to go play in a bowl game.
In
And I
El
might even
Paso,
be
too?
featured.
You get to go to El
The
Paso?
Sun Bowl?
Are you kidding
Forget
me?
about
CBS?
it, man. That's a moment of glory.
Yeah.
In truth, if Florida State's going to walk away with a victory here, before we look at the bigger picture in the next segment and make our picks and talk a little bit more about Coach Norvell, I am curious what you think the key would be, because any time you're playing in a game like this, and it's true for a lot of bowl games in general, maybe you're a sporting guy or gal and you're in a pool trying to pick some of these games, you got to really figure out motivation. To me, it's the only way you win games like this is if you care to compete. I'll start with that. Play with some, they went up to Boston College and we weren't real sure that game was going to go well. Now they fired Willie Taggart and they found some emotion, but they played hard. They got down that game and they cared to win it and they fought back and they won it, and you could see it. I think we'll know very early on in this game if it's something similar, like do they care to be there.
Well, I agree. If I said number one, it's the motivation. I mean, it's tough when you see all your teammates sitting out. You see coaches that this guy's not going to be here in a week. You're trying to do that. It's really hard emotionally to get these guys settled into that. But if you want to go on the field, I'd say just obviously containing Daniels is going to be a huge key. If you let him run around, they can't run the football. So, and Florida State's been, somewhat decent against the run at times. So, I mean, if they're going to do anything, they're going to have to throw the football. And that's the key to me. If he's able to throw the ball around like he's done a lot, I mean, he threw for over 400 yards against Oregon.
Yeah.
And that's a lot better defense than Florida State. So that scares you a little bit.
Yeah, so this is setting up badly for us.
Yeah. If you're motivated, that helps. But I don't even know if you're motivated, it's going to matter too much because you're not going to be able to block them up front because you don't block anyone.
You don't block anybody.
And they're going to move the ball and score points. So it's not a great combination. But
can't get after the pass.
They are missing their NFL wide receiver. They are missing their 1,000-yard rusher. He is a freshman quarterback. And I do think a lot of it is, I think the rosters are pretty similar. I think it comes down to who actually wants to be there and who's playing, and that'll be important. And I don't know, as long as those kids don't watch this show and know how meaningless this game is, they might be of the mindset to go out there and win.
And guys, it is meaningless.
It is completely meaningless.
What are you trying to say?
That's a meaningless game. Maybe we should go back to talking about Coach Norvell.
Yes.
And what a good hire that was. We'll do it next on the WarChant.com report.
Did you hear that? That is the sound of Florida State football. Be ready, Noles. You bleed it, now own it. Check out Tallahassee's #1 store for FSU gear, Garnet and Gold. Locally owned for over 40 years, turn to their team to bring you the finest selection of spirited apparel and merchandise for every fan. They're always happy to see you and always happy to serve you. Visit their flagship store at 1504 Governor Square Boulevard, the campus shop over on West Pensacola, or if you're on the north side of town at 1400 Village Square Boulevard. And always on the web at garnetandgold.com. Garnet and Gold, a Tallahassee tradition you can depend on. If you're a Seminole, they're your store. Go Noles!
Welcome back to the WarChant.com report, brought to you by First Commerce Financial. Big picture, did Florida State make the right hire in Mike Norvell? If you could go back and get Franklin or Campbell or Stoops, any of the other coaches that were mentioned, would you, or are you happy with this hire?
I got to admit, I sat here, I think it's about a month ago, and we were going through all the possible coaching candidates, and it was starting to look like Mike Norvell might be the guy. And I said, look, I'd be disappointed because all these other big names. But, I got to admit here, from what I've seen so far, I'm wrong. I think right now, if I had my choice to go back, I'd say I think you made the right hire. You got to wonder, could a guy who hadn't really been in college coaching in Bob Stoops for years come back and revitalize and bring all the energy that Mike Norvell has done? I don't know, because you go across the board, you talk to a lot of the former players already like, man, you really hit a home run with this guy. You talk to the administration on and off the record, man, they think they really hit a home run with this guy. The Seminole Booster Organization, I don't know if you know this, Jeff, but I mean, before his signing day press conference, he went out of his way to tell the Seminole Booster Organization, I want to have a phone conference with you beforehand to keep you guys up to date on what's going on with the signing class. That's something the last couple of coaches never would have done. Recruits, we know they've kind of bought in. I mean, everything you can do, and now granted, it's only a couple weeks, but I can't think of anything he's done wrong so far. So, I mean, I'm buying in. I think they made the correct hire.
Well, I'll say this, and something that's encouraging for our viewers. When you get one of the cool things about working for ESPN or even being an affiliate is that sometimes you get to know people in other markets that also work for ESPN affiliates or the mothership itself. And I got a call from a guy who's got no ties to Florida State. He's a Michigan graduate, but he works in the truck and he travels around, works ABC games and ESPN games, has for years. And so he goes West Coast, East Coast, North, South, doesn't matter. And when he heard that Mike Norvell was a candidate for Florida State, he called me and said, if you guys can get him, get him. He goes, don't worry about Stoops, don't worry about Franklin, get Norvell. And I said, why? And he goes, man, we've done 4 Memphis games the last few years that I've been a part of it, and we're there for the interviews with the coaches beforehand. And then we actually watch the games, obviously, from the truck. He never gets out-coached. He can get beat because he doesn't have the players, but he doesn't get out-coached. He doesn't look surprised, and he's organized. And when we interview their players, they love him. They're all bought in, and they all work hard and tirelessly for him. I thought that was a hell of a compliment for the guy that we ended up hiring, and that excited me because I'm talking to a guy that has no ties to Florida State, doesn't care whether we fail or succeed, and he was saying you got to get him.
Yeah, not to be a Debbie Downer though, but if you're asking me about Norvell or James Franklin, Man, look,
And
James
Franklin would have been a huge hire.
great hire, because the thing that Franklin, Stoops, I agree with Gene to a certain extent, because he's been out for 2 years. You don't know what kind of energy he's
kind of
bringing.
fire, right?
I mean, he wants to coach in the XFL. Well, you don't want that kind of mindset on around your kids. But Franklin is a guy that can recruit at an elite level, because it's not as easy to recruit at Penn State, and he's made them Rose Bowl contenders for half a decade now. He's a very good coach. So if you're asking me if I'd rather, we would be doing cartwheels right now if James Franklin had been here for the last 2 years.
No doubt. But do you think, given that was not an option and that he was going to use Florida State for a raise, which a lot of these people do, and then you end up with Norvell, could have had Matt Campbell or some other guys that are lesser tier names, do you feel good about the Norvell hire?
I do. Yeah, I do. Again, the press conference was big. We haven't even talked about it, but they went 12-1 this year. It's big to be on a coach that wins football games.
It helps.
Not ones that, turn around programs very slowly and, we had a 7-5 and another 7-5. I mean, my man's won 10 games twice in 4 years. He's almost 75% winning percentage, and his team's going to the Cotton Bowl. Memphis is going to the Cotton Bowl. The guy can really, really coach.
Yeah.
That's a big deal. A bigger deal even is getting players on board. And that's where there's still, I was impressed with what he did on the recruiting trail in 2 weeks.
Good signs.
Really impressed
really
that he was able to get a commitment from a quarterback from Arizona. I just think that's really impressive to go out there in 4 days and get a kid like that. Then him committed to another program that's in your division for 6 months. That's a really big deal. I think that's a good sign. But we'll see. That, to me, is what he has to prove more than anything is on the recruiting
He already
trail.
owns Louisville.
Yeah, and and that's a big deal, by the way, because Satterfield's a good coach at Louisville. That's a program on the ascension. They're in your division. You already got to deal with Clemson, who's light years away from you. You've got to find a way to at least now, at some point here real soon, be the second best team in your division at least, and then we can start worrying about the uphill climb to get Clemson. All right, it's time for picks, kids. Here we go. Let's get to them. Wisconsin and Oregon. Oregon getting 2.5 points here. I was kind of surprised by that. I like this Oregon team. I'm going to take them.
I'm going to go with the cheese on this one.
Okay, you're going to go with Wisconsin?
Yep.
I think it's a hard-fought game.
It is good. It's a good
Oregon's
matchup.
getting points?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll go with Oregon.
All right, Oregon it is. Virginia and Florida. Florida's a huge favorite here. I've thought Virginia was a fraud all year long. When I went to the game in Charlottesville and I watched our athletes and their athletes, and I said, basically, this team's just better coached. We're a better team, but they're a better coach. So I haven't liked Virginia all year, and I still don't like them here. I think Florida kills them. I'll give the 14.5.
Yeah, Virginia's not very good. I don't know. Bowl games are weird. I wonder if Florida's going to be overly motivated. Yeah, overly motivated. I don't like that hook. I'm sure I'm going to be wrong, but I'm going to go with the Cavs. I don't like that hook on there.
Yeah, I like Florida too. Yeah. Virginia's in the Orange Bowl. What's going on?
They're fired up. Florida doesn't care.
What's going on, man? What's going on?
Michigan and Florida should care. That's a big bowl for Florida. They haven't been anything.
They're going to see
forever.
the Wahoos on the other side.
Michigan and Alabama. I think Nick will be pissed. The receivers are playing. I read this week.
Oh, they are? All of them?
It looks that way.
Wow.
If that happens, good night, Michigan. They don't have the requisite speed. I'll take Alabama, and I'll give the 7.
You worry about the letdown factor with Alabama. It's the first time in a long time they've been in the national championship conversation at this point, so there's going to be the letdown.
Heartbreaking.
But at the end of the day, Michigan's not very good. I would say if this was a viable opponent, I think Alabama might struggle in this one, but Michigan's just not very good. So, yeah, go ahead. I'll lay those 7.
I mean, I guess I'll go with Michigan just to be different.
Okay.
Well, is anybody tallying these anyway? I'm going to go and say Michigan plus that. You're not
going to be held accountable.
You don't give Harbaugh a month. That's what they always say. Don't give Harbaugh a month to prepare.
Oklahoma, who has now suspended some players on the defensive side of the football.
Gosh. Their best player.
Yeah, that's a real problem when your sack leader is not going to play in a game against an offense like LSU's where you got to get to the quarterback. LSU by 100.
I know it's 11 seems like a lot of points and it's a playoff game, but I don't even understand the line. The only thing you could think is maybe being out of a month, LSU is going to be rusty or something. We see that sometimes, but other than that, LSU should roll all over Oklahoma.
Yeah, and that line is shooting up. It went to 13.5,
oh,
and then the announcements happen, and it's not. By the time they
well, good, we got it 11 here, so we're good.
Give the 11.
Yeah, I'll take LSU in that for sure. They're good.
The best game maybe that we get, period, and I think this is a really good playoffs. Once we dispatch of Oklahoma, we really do have 3 elite teams that all 3 could win it, and I am really excited about this game, Ohio State and Clemson. I've thought most of the year that even though they had the one scare against North Carolina from that point forward when they decided to turn it on and play for real, that Clemson was the best team in the country. I give them the benefit of the doubt with all of that star power, and in particular the quarterback. Give me Clemson, -2 against Ohio State.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's hard to tell how good these teams. They really haven't played anybody all year, so you don't really know how good these teams are. But yeah, based on history, that Clemson has been there before, done it with this essential core group from last year, including the quarterback. So yeah, you got to go with that, Clemson.
You just wonder, they have not been challenged at all except for that one game, and they didn't handle that challenge all that well, to be honest with you.
They could have lost it.
So you wonder with Clemson, man, just what are they going to be like in the third or fourth quarter of a close game? Is Etienne even played in a fourth quarter? Etienne has even played in the fourth quarter this year? I really don't know. I think they're better than Ohio State.
I do too.
But, man, I'm just, more than anything, I don't know that I look forward to a playoff game more than this one.
I'm really pumped about this
game. It's a really exciting game.
Because even though I'm taking Clemson, I do feel like, especially if Ohio State's healthy, and towards the end of the year they really weren't, and so they struggled a little bit with Wisconsin and a little bit with Michigan briefly. If Ohio State's healthy, I do think these are evenly matched teams. I like Clemson's experience. In particular, I like the quarterback. But it's a great game, kind of a toss-up game. All right, we have to pick Florida State.
I'll take Clemson, by the way. You didn't give me a chance to make my pick.
I can tell who you
Okay, good.
Arizona State and Florida State. I'm taking Arizona State minus the 4.5.
Yeah, I mean, that's an easy one for me. I know their wide receiver being out. They've had a couple coaches that are out. I know we talked about it earlier. We're still not even sure what's going on with Florida State. We don't know. Could Laybourne play possibly? We've heard who's a receiver that might be back. Ontario Wilson.
Yeah, Pokey.
Pokey could be back in. So we're still kind of like, there's a lot of moving parts. But even if those guys are back, Arizona State can pass the football with Daniels. Florida State's so bad in that. I don't see them stopping them at all. There's no motivation in this game. I think there might be a little for Arizona State. They're going to go, we're playing the Seminoles.
Yeah.
At least there's a little bit of motivation. They're playing a big name team.
Brand.
Plus, they want to get revenge for 1984 when Florida State went to their house and beat them late in the game.
So
they've been waiting 35 years for that. Yeah, so they got a chance now. I'm going to take Florida State just to be different.
Odell, baby. Be held accountable.
Well, that's true. I got that.
I got to make sure to bring this back for the preseason edition in 2020.
We haven't brought up the Odell factor, man. He doesn't lose bowl games.
Happy holidays to all of you. Aslan, great job all year long, buddy. Happy holidays to everybody out there. We really do appreciate you watching the show all year long. It's a pleasure to bring it to you. And go Noles.